Welcome to Beyond Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Petralis, and we are super excited for today's guest. A coach that I've known for a while, honestly started through the teaching world in Medford. Been following his basketball career, his head coaching job, and he's been in a couple different programs, and he's done some great work with them. And now he's currently at Wilmington and doing some great work with them. I believe already qualified for state playoffs, so being able to kind of follow that journey a little bit and seeing how he's kind of taken over a program. I'm a Wilmington guy, so it's easy. We're just talking. We're both like dads of young kids, and just like the craziness of just getting on a podcast for a night and doing this. So it's been kind of funny, but I'm excited to have him on. He's a great coach, and I can't wait to kind of pick his brain today. So without further ado, Anthony Faradie, the head basketball coach at Wilmington High School. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of mentioned it. You guys qualified for states. I mean, we chatted early on in the season when you kind of first took over. I've seen the success that you had in Methuen and, to kind of see, you bringing that type of, style over here to the Middlesex a little bit in Wilmington. I know you live here and everything else. So it's like perfect for you. But you guys doing great, man. You're doing awesome. So first, congrats on qualifying for states. Just talk about that a little bit, what that means to you as a coach. I know there is a journey ahead of you still, and there's a lot of season to play, but getting here, getting there quickly is a great story.
Yeah, I took over the program in I think like late July, and I met with our captains who were in place before I came, and one of the things we did was we sat down and we talked about what some of our goals were, and their goal was to make the state tournament. So being able to check off that box it's just an incredible feeling for these guys, because this is something that they really wanted. That they haven't had a whole lot of success in recent times in Wilmington basketball, and to be able to get to the point where we check off this box right now with 5 games left to go. It's been great, and it's kind of allowed us to be able to, kind of move forward and kind of set some new goals. So that's where we're at. And yeah, it's a great feeling. I'm super excited for our guys.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick on that a little bit just because I think you've done such a great job. I mean, I mentioned earlier when I introduced you your days in Medford as a head basketball coach, and we had Mark Antonelli on here a couple times, and he, raved about you as a coach and a program that you ran, and he told a story about like an offense that he ran, and he was thinking about going away from it, and you were like, "Yeah, like I probably shouldn't be telling you this as an opponent, but as a friend, like." God, we prepare for this so much. Like, why would you never not do this? Like, and I forget the exact story, but he mentioned it. But you've had a lot of success in Medford. You made Medford a really successful program. You went to Methuen, you're a powerhouse. You won some big games. You beat some big time programs. And now to see you kind of doing it in Wilmington. My question to you is, what is it about your program early on that you like? What are some musts in your program as you're building one and you walk into a school? You mentioned goals and kids kind of seeing what their personal goals were. But you then, as a coach, as a leader, what are your steps into kind of now stepping into another program and being able to have success with that?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with, I mean, I think it's a lot, but I think it starts with who you're working for. I've been super lucky, over the years. I worked for Bobby Maloney in Medford, which was an incredible athletic director. We had an amazing relationship. And then, I went to Methuen and I had Jim Weymouth for a few years, and then Matt Curran, and I also worked for our principal at Methuen was Richie Barden, who were both the basketball coaches before me at Methuen, and they were just incredible guys to work for. And now over in Wilmington with Ryan Gendron and Dennis Ingram. I mean, I wasn't really sure when I interviewed for this job if I was going to take it. I mean, it was, right down, it's 2 minutes from my house and definitely fits in well with my family. But I sat down with those guys for a while, and I could tell that those were two guys that I wanted to work for. So I mean, I think it starts there, and then just developing the program. I mean, I think it's just having high character kids and coachable kids is really important. And I've been blessed to have great assistant coaches over the years, and I got great assistant coaches right now. They're doing a hell of a job. I'm super lucky to have them. Our kids are super lucky to have them, and they're really the backbone of the whole thing. So I think that's kind of some of the steps, and you're taking over a new program here. You kind of figuring out. early on, it's, they're learning me, I'm learning them, they're learning our coaching staff and just trying to kind of put it all together. And we started 0-4 this year. We had a little bit of a rough start and, um, there's some culture change going on and, I'm learning the kids and, the best system and best way to play with them. So we've kind of figured it out. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, you really got to look at the whole thing as a whole, in my opinion. And I think it starts at the top. And I've been really fortunate to work for great, great people over the years.
Yeah, I mean, great leadership's important. I know I worked at Alton Catholic, especially as a head coach. It's nice when you have people that like are involved and understand it, are coaches themselves, and just like kind of get what you need as far as a program goes. That's like really important. I mean, you mentioned 0-4, and I was going to kind of talk about that. I mean, I remember becoming a head coach my first season at AC. You know, we lost a couple games. We were 0-3, but like lost close games comparably to what they were last year in programs, and that's tough starting off tough. 0-4, what's your message to your team? Because then there's the turnaround. You guys have been playing very well, following you on Instagram. It just seems like every time, every post I see of you has another one, another one, another one. And that turnaround at 0-4, what are you preaching to the team, and where did you maybe see the change in your squad?
Yeah, I think, it was the change the squad was in the new year. We started out with our first win against Watertown at home, who we actually have tomorrow night. And historically very strong program, and Steve Harrington does a great job over there. So that kind of started it off. But I really think what it was is, we taking over a new program. We had our first game the second Friday of the season. We have maybe had 5 practices under our belt if don't include tryouts. And our first 4 games were, kind of right away. And then we had about a week and a half to 2 week break over Christmas. And I think that really was big for us to be able to just kind of, build on some things. And, the message was really just stay the course. We gotta fight through it. I mean, there's nothing else you can do. You got to fight through it. So our guys did a great job doing that. And hats off to them. I mean, I can't say enough about these kids to start off a season and go 0-4 and dig yourself out of that to the point where we're 10-5 right now. I mean, it just tells you about their character. I mean, it's really on them, and they've done a heck of a job. I'm super lucky to be their coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And it's fun to see that. You know, I've been in town the last few years, you know, and playing in the Middlesex Conference alone is really difficult. And to see you kind of come in and you've played in some tough leagues. I mean, you played in some tough GBL games. You played in some, I mean, Methuen's always in tough games. I mean, that conference is crazy too. So you understand like going on an away game, the mentality of a team, where you need to be in preaching that and see that turnaround and see where you guys are at. It's quite amazing to be honest with you. As a head coach, I like to ask coaches this a lot, and you can give any answer you want with it, really. Do you consider yourself more like an offensive minded coach, defensive minded coach? I mean, building your team, building your culture. I mean, where on what side of the ball do you maybe balance it, or do you find that you're kind of a 50-50 guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to do everything. I think you try to be as well rounded as you possibly can. I think our foundation's on the defensive end, but and I think when I probably first started coaching, you know, um, I think defense was probably really my thing. But as time has went on here, and I've grown as a coach, um, I think that offensively, I've really grown a lot in that area. And I mean they work both ways. It's like, hey, if you understand in defense and you're watching a lot of offense and vice versa. So I mean, you coach football, I'm sure it works kind of the same way. But I think you got to be well rounded, and I've had some, again, great coaches over the year. I got great coaches now, and sometimes you have some coaches that can kind of specialize in certain areas, and you kind of take what they have, and kind of take the good things that they can bring to the table and kind of implement that. So yeah, I mean, I think you gotta be well rounded. So I wouldn't consider myself either one.
Yeah. I mean, what's so interesting, and I'm just curious, like I think of a football coach, like education wise, like outside of basketball, where are you getting your education? Are you going to clinics? Are you doing online things? Are you watching videos? Like, how do you develop yourself as a coach or maybe your staff and philosophy in the off season a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, I watch a lot of games myself, and I try to figure out what teams are doing. The way I watch the game is probably different than the way most people watch it, but
Right.
um, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm very fortunate to be a high school coach is that our season starts later. So, what I try to do is get to a lot of college practices before our season
That's
starts.
great.
So I go to the college practices of programs that I respect, and going back to the Medford connection. My former boss at WPI, Chris Bartley, who obviously has like a top 25 program year in, year out. I try to get up there a lot. I try to get to Gene Bain from
Yep.
Medford over at Brandeis, getting into his practices. These guys, really these coaches are great about those are just that's kind of family, but I
Yeah.
do try to get to other basketball practices, preseason before our season starts, and then yeah, you're watching instructional videos, you're doing all that,
Yep.
you're trying to, you'll from teams you're coaching against, and the coaches you're coaching against, you pick up things from them too,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you just like the example that you talked about with Mark Antonelli, who's a great friend and a great coach. You know, Sometimes you have those conversations, and as coaches, around the state, you pick each other's brain here and there, and
Yep.
you always got to be learning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so funny, because those clinics and I would go to a lot of them when I was young at first. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to the Florida State wide receivers coach one," and then I could tell people I went to that. And then as I started going to clinics more, I was like, I just want to see the high school guys. Like, I don't care if they're from Georgia or like Texas or what. Like, I don't care because that's more realistic. Like, I'm not going to have these guys that have perfect hip turns as defensive backs and receivers who can like drop on a dime and make a move. Like, so how are you coaching that? How are you doing that? So I find myself when I educated myself early on as a coach, I was more about seeing this big coach from somewhere versus as I started coaching, being like, yeah, I can't like coach this. This is these way above them. Like, so you kind of find a way to educate yourself. So I'm always curious about that. Just because I used to kind of really work in the off season of just like watching videos and getting better, and it's important. I think that built into everything. Another big thing too is depth, right? So you're talking about you're running your team and how successful you guys are. Um, how deep does your bench go? I know in football for me, like the better teams, we had depth. Guys get hurt, guys get injured. You have someone who can step in and do something. I mean, I've covered teams this year that have short benches. I've covered teams that are 10 guys deep. I mean, where do you kind of fall in that as a squad this year a little bit?
yeah, I mean, I think it varies, I think it varies on, game situation and, who are playing in matchups and it can be really different from game to game. So yeah, I mean, I think our depth has got better as the year's gone on. And I think, early on in the season, like those first four games, we were battling like a lot of sickness and some injuries, and we had some guys get minutes early on for us. Well, maybe some of our starting group was kind of out. So, yeah, I think it varies, and it's just one of those things that it's just in practice every day. Just working to get better every day. So, I mean, we feel comfortable going to. Everybody on our bench. It's just what the game situation really how it presents. I mean, we got some really good players that can be really hard to take off the floor at times. So, it's kind of,
Yeah.
with the pace of the game and, foul trouble and all those type of things. So, I mean, the pace in the Middlesex League in general is probably not quite up and down as much as I have been in the Merrimack Valley, where I think you had to go deeper. So, it really depends on who you're playing, I think. But, our guys like one to 14, do a great job.
Is there a gym you've gone to this year that's just been like nuts? Like, is your guys' gym nuts? Like, or has been getting nuts now that you're seeing the success? Or is there an away gym that you went to that's like enemy territory, like tough spot to play?
Yeah, I mean, this league can pack these gyms. So yeah, we've had we've had some good crowds, and it's been really fun to play in front of. Um, yeah, geez, we just played against Stoneham. That place was filled up.
Yeah.
It was that travel night, and that place was jammed up. And prior to that, we were at Wakefield, Melrose. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's fun because we're playing in front of good crowds, and I think our Wilmington fan base is traveling too to we're on a 3 game road trip right now. This will tomorrow will be the final one. And that game will be at Watertown. They definitely packed the gym there too, and they have a smaller gym, and I think it's going to get sold out tomorrow from what we're hearing. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's great playing in front of that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's cool to hear that because, it maybe hasn't been like that, right? So, with winning comes all that stuff, and that brings a different element to your program. Your players are now on a different stage a little bit. And some of your social media stuff's been great. So, it's cool to see the success. For you, obviously, you've coached in a lot of different places and so on. Comparably now being in the Middlesex League, you mentioned maybe not as up and down and so on. For you as a coach, how adaptive do you have to be? Do you find yourself coaching a little differently when style's different, or are you kind of you who you are and that's it?
I mean, it's definitely a learning curve on learning how these programs in this league play, So you're kind of learning the league, once I was at Methuen for 11 years and, at Medford for 6 years. And, once you're in the league for a couple of years, you kind of get an idea on how these programs want to play. I think in my 11 years at Methuen, I don't think we played against a Middlesex League team once. So it's very, very new to me and learning how these coaches and how these programs want to play. So you definitely have to adapt to it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I remember off-season games in football a little different. You book a non-league game and it's like, all right, this team plays in a league that's kind of like a double tight team, and we're gonna see a double tight team in our league. So you kind of look at your like who you played a little bit and before the point system and stuff because you might play a team that ends up not being that great, but systematically they run something that you're gonna see twice a year. So you want to see it maybe the third game of the season, see what you need to fix and who you might need to move in certain spots. So, I mean, I get it, moving into a different conference, how a game's maybe even refed or called a little bit too. So I'm sure that all comes into play. What's the
Yeah.
rest of your season looking like?
I mean, we got Watertown tomorrow, and then we don't look ahead. I don't even look at. I mean, it's so difficult because just piggybacking off what we were just talking about learning the league. Basketball's really difficult because you're playing Tuesday, Friday. There's limited time to get ready for your next opponent.
Yeah.
I don't look ahead to anybody. So, you play we played Stoneham on Friday night, and then Friday you're watching your game film from Friday night, usually Friday night when I get home
Right,
till
exactly.
12:30 in the morning, trying to get that out of the way with because on Saturday you got to dig your head into the film on Watertown, so um yeah, it's a quick turnaround. By Monday afternoon, you have to have, your scouting report, your film edits, game plan, a practice plan all ready to go. While you have a couple little, I have a 2 and 3 year old at home, and you're working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. So get learning these teams, and you just kind of in a cave and just studying these teams. So that's pretty much you know, like I think basketball is one of the most difficult because just the schedule you're playing. Like I think maybe not last week, but 2 weeks before we had 3 games in that week, and it's a super grind, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's so funny. We do kind of like we're doing a docu series with Malden Catholic basketball this year, and their
Mhm.
AD reached out to us about it. And the cool thing about it is like these kids, like I mean, they just ran a gauntlet of a schedule, back like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it was like 3 games, and it was just like it wears and tears on you. You see these kids, and we go to a Saturday morning practice, and these kids are like they're sore. It's for the
Mhm.
turnaround, you're talking about it from an educational standpoint, which is a real quick turnaround. But these guys too, they're playing hard, physical basketball, and you're playing it pretty quickly. I mean, you can be in good shape, but still just be dinged up.
Yeah, yeah. It's super difficult, and the mental part of it is maybe even more difficult, just go through a 20 game season, you know, you're getting physically worn down a little bit, but to be not let your guard down mentally, to be locked in, and prepared, I think is the trick to it all, not letting your guard down. So yeah. It's a challenge day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit to season's over and so on. First off season, obviously you got young kids at home, you got to be dad, you need time locked in to do that. Um, what's an off season look like for you a little bit as far as when do you start really thinking about, I mean, I know it never really stops, so I mean, that's the
No,
real answer, but like, when do you kind of like really start thinking about potential starting lineup? And I know kids then play basketball at all different leagues and they're traveling everywhere and you can't keep track of everything. But what's an off season look like you for a little bit, or just thinking ahead what this first one might look like for you in Wilmington?
yeah, I mean, we kind of look at it like we're a big family, so it really doesn't stop. You try to spend as much time with the kids as you can, like um, in the weight room, you're watching them in the summer league, in the fall league. I mean, just kind of being around each other, to be honest with you, doing things that are non-basketball related, like going out, getting out on a hike or whatever it is, and just kind of spending time and building that team chemistry, I think is really important. Listen, I mean, starting lineup, I mean, I don't really start thinking about that. Until like our season actually starts. I've had so many kids over the years that have had incredible development in an off season that I wouldn't even have thought maybe had been varsity players, and some of them had fell in my starting lineup or been like our top players. Um, you just kind of take it day by day, and you're just trying to spend as much time with these kids, try to be in the weight room. I think that's one thing that's really helped us a lot this year. One of my assistant coaches, Justin Moss, who's a Wilmington guy, originally from Somerville, but he lives in Wilmington, and he's done an incredible job, kind of being our strength and conditioning coach at the same time. And I think
Right.
I think it's really helped us stay strong throughout the season. Doing all that stuff. Yeah, we got big plans for these guys in the off season right away.
Yeah, and and obviously this might be not be in your mindset either, but as far as like youth and being involved in the community now, like obviously with great success, these young kids are now coming out in Wilmington High School, and you guys compete with like Shawshene Tech, and like some kids from Wilmington go to school there. So, talking about like being involved in the youth programs a little bit, or seeing now the youth coming out to these games, is there like a big master plan for that? I'm sure there is with the
Yeah, I
program.
mean, we got a great youth program here in Wilmington, and I came in kind of late summer and kind of, started to get to know these guys, and we did the clinics preseason before travel started. We've been at the travel games. Yesterday we were at the fourth grade game after our practice. Actually, our whole team went over there. Coach Moss's son, Logan, is on the fourth grade team.
Oh, cool.
So we went and supported him, and we've worked with those kids a lot. We've seen, been at some of the practices for some of the travel teams and stuff like that. So just kind of getting to know you. We did the coaches clinic over there. Yeah, we're trying to be as present as possible with the youth programs, and getting to know these kids that are coming up. We're super excited about it. Part of the reason that I wanted to come to Wilmington is that I look around my neighborhood here, and there's kids everywhere,
Yeah,
and they're, middle school kids, and,
right.
I'm walking my dog around the block and they're shooting hoops, and I'm saying to myself, like, wow, like there's kids everywhere here. Like this is something that we can build here. So, I had always said to myself, if the Wilmington job pops up, I really got to think about going for it, and, yeah, so we're excited. We have a good relationship with our travel program and our youth program in general. They do a great job, and I think we have a good partnership going on, and we hope to continue to build that.
I mean, that's great. That's awesome to hear. And it's so important. Like, Yeah, dude, there's so many beautiful outdoor basketball courts in Wilmington, just out the
Yeah,
high school alone. But any of the parks you go to, there's beautiful basketball courts. Like
Gentile's beautiful. Yeah.
the town's smart. They invested in their programs. They got a turf field that's just a turf field that's there. Like the high school's beautiful. Like, yeah, they're invested in their sports and obviously you're a great coach. I mean, I'm not trying to pat you on the back here because you're right here, but it's the truth. It's you've had success everywhere you've gone. There's a formula to what you do, and I think that's important for a lot of coaches that kind of have been in it for a while to hopping around from place to place or might be scared to make that move. Like to see you being able to kind of take that, who you are philosophically and who you are as a leader and kind of ingest it into other programs, like you're seeing that formula work. So I think that's a great message for you guys.
Yeah.
You're so that means what did you say? You're 10-5 right now, 11-5?
10-5 right
10
now.
and 5.
Yeah.
So obviously you're on a really good run right now. Where do you stand right now as far as the Middlesex League goes, and where are you looking at yourself as your like playoff standings or potentials? Is that kind of stuff start popping up yet at all, or if you haven't even
Yeah, I
thought
mean,
about it?
I think we've shifted it, and again, it's game by game. In the Middlesex League right now, we're on the Freedom side. We have 4 losses, and Burlington has 4 losses. Burlington beat us head to head, so we're even in the league right now. We have them on our
Right.
schedule still. We got Watertown tomorrow night, who's 1 game behind us. We're going through a really tough schedule coming up here in these next 5 games. We got Watertown, we got Melrose, um, Burlington, and Wakefield. So, I mean, it's going to be a difficult road, and we just got to take it game by game.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
so,
mean,
yeah, I
it's
mean, just taking it game by game. And like I said, we checked off the first box, and we feel like we're right there in the mix for a league championship, and that's our next goal is try to put a banner on the wall here and cut down these nets.
that's awesome. That's cool. Um, what's your commute? How many minutes?
2 minutes door to door. Amazing. Can't beat it.
I
Can't beat
mean, that must be incredible, right?
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. It's incredible. I mean, and just, living in this town, it's a great town and it's a way for, myself, my family to give back. And, like, I'm bringing my kids to the travel games that we go to and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they're around it and they like being in the gym, you know. It's great for my family, and it's just great to be right here in this community. I love the community of Wilmington. I've been here for almost 4 years now, and I love it.
Yeah, it is like great. I mean, I moved here in 2015 and they just do so much in town. The 4th of July carnival's the best. Like I love
Yeah, I
bringing the
saw you
kids to
over at
it.
the carnival, and our kids are riding the rides together. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. I love it.
It's cool and I love that they did it in a high school parking lot. Like that was just a better setup. Like I think that's what it's probably going to be now with their building stuff there, but
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was a better setup. It seemed like more open, and I mean, I don't know how the school felt about it, but I thought it was great. I thought it was good.
Yep. Yeah, they do a great job.
Yeah, everything's fun, and at that 4th of July thing, there's one of the tables like in the courtyard area, and they sell the giant chipwich sandwiches. If you've never gone and get it before, they are the biggest chipwich sandwich. I have a picture of my son like taking a bite of it, and it's like it covers like here to like his whole face, like it's huge. And I buy like 6 of them. It's like the Boy Scouts. They make them and they're monsters. Like every time I know people that go to them, like go to that table, you're gonna see the biggest chipwich sandwich you've ever
Nice.
seen in your life. So if you haven't gone, I'm telling you, it's well worth it.
Boy, that's gonna have to be a cheat day.
Yeah, it's the 4th of July. I think that whole day is
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
whole weekend's a cheat day no matter what,
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, my kids are a little bit too young to stay out for the fireworks, but I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to being able to see that show too. I kind of try to see if I can see it over the trees from my front porch.
Yeah. I mean that like we could hear it from my house. I mean, the one thing about my twins, like they slip we train them so much about their sleep. Like they have to go to sleep at the same time. They cannot not be in the same sleep schedule. Like we'll lose our minds. Like
Yep.
and
Yep.
that stuff is just like like I think of the fireworks now and I want to take them and they're like, we want to go to bed. It's like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, God, this is a double-edged sword now because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, I
yep,
don't want to mess with it, but I'm like, you guys want to go to bed? Fine, but it's
yeah.
definitely like I same thing. I'm really trying to push them to like stay up this year and like, let's go. Like, let's go to it.
How old are they?
6. They just turned 6.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My son, I
Either.
think easy. My daughter, no, she is like, I want to go to bed. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. They'll get there soon.
Yeah.
We
So
don't want to rush them too much.
no, no, I
But
want them. Listen, if they want to go to sleep a little early on the 4th of July and I can enjoy it a little bit more, absolutely.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
Um, are you like a big speech guy? Like, what's a speech like? Like when we cover football, Danny Kelly and Jimmy Rabbit, both Medford guys actually.
Mm,
Jimmy doing a Kip Academy. Those guys give like rip roaring speeches. It's always just some like Danny always just has you thinking, then he gets you, and you're just like, even I'm like, geez, like, and Rabbit's the same way. Rabbit's like fiery, and those two guys, like, where do you fall as far as speech guy? You kind of like even keel guy like you are right now? Would you find
yeah.
yourself digging? Like, how do you kind of get yourself ready for a big speech?
I mean, I think we're just very to the point, you know. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm maybe a huge speech guy. I think we're, just trying to keep our team locked in, and I think there's definitely a strong intensity built in around us. Um, and I think our guys, I think our guys are motivated. I don't think we have to motivate them. We're out here for a purpose. We talk about our goals. We're focused on what we need to do as a team. So, if the time comes where I feel like we need something like that, we'll go to it. But we're pretty like just matter of fact on what we need to do. And just we're just always trying to just talk about, just staying locked in all the time and just, preparing, I mean, I think, you know, the confidence that happens through the preparation. So we're really big on the preparation side, and I think if we're prepared, our guys are ready to go. So
Yeah.
I'm not a big speech guy before the game. I think it's more just, hey, we got to be prepared. If we're prepared, we feel like, we're going to play well. So.
Yeah. That's great. Wilmington guy for 5 years. I'm a Wilmington guy for 10 years. What's a go-to like fast food spot for you? Where are you guys like
Oh
order from
man,
quick?
so I don't really eat fast food at all.
Okay, so you're like a strict eater, strict dieter type
I
guy?
try to I try to stay with a pretty clean diet. But if I
Gotcha.
got to go pick something up in Wilmington, I do like Code One,
Okay.
the
Okay.
great barbecue, really good people over there. So we like going there. I like my barbecue, I like my brisket, my beef ribs.
Okay.
We go to just locally, like Red Heat Tavern,
Yep.
good
Gotcha.
spot.
Good
So yeah,
spot. Great spot.
yeah, those are kind of you know our coaching gathering, after a win, Red Heat Tavern over there, and then
Yeah.
the family we like Red Heat too. We go there, and I like I said, Code One.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, Red Heat's a good spot. You always got to have a good coaching spot after a victory or even after the
yeah,
loss. I mean, you got to have those spots. You got to
yeah,
have those
yeah. It's
spots.
really important. Yep, for
So
sure.
you're a healthy eating guy? Like you want like a certain type diet? Do you not eat certain things? I mean,
Yeah, I try to eat a paleo diet.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just try as a coach, you're just trying to, stay in good shape and you're trying to, set a good example for your kids. And, I mean, just being healthy, I can't really think of what's more important than that. So if you
Right.
don't have your health, you don't have anything. So, try to limit sugars and, you try to, stay mentally sharp, because like I said, I think as far as coaching goes, I mean, I can't really think of too many things that are more important than just, being
Yeah.
dialed in and mentally sharp. So yeah,
God, and it's
eat
in
healthy.
coaching you can eat junk quick. I mean, I know I have of even with Beyond sometimes I've caught myself more this year being like more preparing something for myself when I know I'm gonna go to a gig and like just because yeah, you could just go to a store and buy chips or eat like a quick, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get a steak and cheese, like, and you just like eat like
Yeah.
junk. And it was a good spot, like, yeah, when I was working, especially when I was younger and like in much better shape of, yeah, being in the weight room a lot with the kids and helping them with the program. And like you said, you want to lead by example too. You want to be in terrible shape being like, lift this, do that. Like, you can't win them that way if you come in and you're just like couldn't do two of it, so it's
Wow. I
important.
mean, we talk about our guys about, the way to eat and we're working out with our guys. We're getting the lifts with the guys. We're pretty, I mean, I love it. It's built in time for me to be able to do that, which isn't easy. But I will say that coaching in Wilmington, I am actually able to eat dinner here and there now, which is nice. Because
Yeah.
yeah, coaching, you might make a protein shake on the road, and that's probably about it until the next day. But it's definitely a little bit of a help to be 2 minutes down the road and be able to squeeze in a meal here and there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. One thing I'm curious with basketball, just because in the football world I have a certain opinion about it. How much film scouting you doing versus live scout? Because to me in football, it was like you see something on film and you're like, oh, the coach will be like, this team's slow, this team's small. I'm like, that's film. Like, and then you show up and you're like, this team's pretty big, or like, wow, they're a little more physical than they seem on film. I mean, in basketball, how does that translate as far as film watching versus like, yeah, I gotta go see this team live. I have to see them live.
yeah. I mean, in basketball, it's difficult because a lot of, and it really depends on your league too. I mean, I remember being in the GBL where, there's only 5 teams in the GBL and everybody's playing non-league games on Wednesdays and
Yeah.
Mondays and Sundays and all that stuff. And, oftentimes you'd be able to, have an early practice time and be able to go get out and scout a game. Like
Yeah.
in the Middlesex League, everybody plays the same night. And the same thing in the
Okay.
Merrimack Valley is everybody's playing Tuesday, Friday nights. You might get an opportunity where, you might be able to squeeze in a live scout here and there. I've been able to get out a couple times to a live scout this year, but most of it, there's really not a whole lot of choice
Yeah.
besides the film
Yeah.
at this point. And I mean, film has really developed, since I got into the coaching world where, right now you got, every, like you're covering games, you got,
Right. You can just click anything.
YouTube's out there and we have the technology now to be able to really do a lot of film exchange. I mean, that being said, like I prefer to be I mean, I think I prefer to live scout a team and have the film on them. I mean, at a live scout, you're going to be able to. I mean, for us and the way that we play defense, I think we're kind of different than a lot of teams. But for us, to be able to, kind of hear, it's sometimes it's hard to hear on film like play calls, and things like that. So the live scout can really help in that area. But obviously, the film, I have the rewind button that I don't have. On the live scope. But I
Yeah.
do feel
Yeah.
like I'm a really good live scouter because, I've just done it for so long.
So
There's
many
really not a
times.
whole lot of stuff that I haven't seen out there. So
Yeah.
usually I can live scout something and see a play and just be like, hey, this is, my all of Reams 5 play or my,
Right.
whatever, So I think there's big advantages to both, and if you can do both, it's great. I think the times that we're living in right now, it's definitely more film than anything. And you're able to you know, get a hold of a decent amount of film and be able to kind of see how different teams are playing the team that you're playing against. So if we have an opportunity to live scout, we go do it, but it's just
Yeah.
seem
It's
like
hard. Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, it doesn't seem like, and then your practice times can get in the way too, because
Yeah.
and for us anyways, and pretty much everywhere I've been, it's like you're
Right.
sharing
Everyone's facing
time
the
with,
same problem. Yeah.
yeah, with the girls and the boys, like if somebody's going early, somebody's going late. So if you're going late, that's usually the same time that a game is going on. So, you got to make sure that, everything that you're doing takes priority, so your team takes priority and you do the best that you can with the scouting. So I mean we're very heavy on scouting. But I would say the majority of it we do is on film.
That's great. I mean, that's a good point. And I mean, yeah, even that live stream now, like I've clicked on so many times with like you can live stream right into the gym and there's the camera set up. So you're right. I mean, there is so many ways to get
Yeah,
film
you got
footage,
Huddle
but yeah,
Fan now that that they
yeah,
broadcast the games live and they live stream. I mean, it's great because I mean, like I have family that lives south of Boston. I got my brother is in Texas, and they can watch the game live. And I think like 15 years ago or back in my Medford days, we didn't have any of that. So it's great. I mean, it's a thing where all these kids have family that kind of are all over, and
right,
people can watch them play whenever.
yeah,
So it's fantastic. It really is. And I think, if there was one good thing that came out of COVID, it was probably that because
right,
like we couldn't have anybody in the gym back then, and it was like all the schools in our league in the Merrimack Valley were like, all right, we're all getting the huddle camera and we're all broadcasting these games because the families weren't even allowed in the building. So the only way it could happen was they watched it on YouTube or
right.
on Huddle Live. So that's where I
That's
think it
crazy.
changed. Yeah, that's where it changed, I think.
Because I stopped coaching right before COVID. God, it was hard when I had twins, man. I just like couldn't do it. Like
Oh,
as
it's
much as
oh
it
my
killed
God.
me, because I knew, God, we were like, and that team made the playoffs. Like the next, like I knew that, that was like my money team, and so
That's
it
tough.
was great to see it. But on the other end of it, like that team like lost a year and then they made the playoffs, and that was a good squad, and but God, I couldn't imagine during COVID. Like I said that to myself. I was like, I could not have imagined doing this all during COVID on top of it. And but the good that came out of it is coverage, and it's great for coaches and scouting, and
Yeah.
film
Yeah.
exchange was so difficult. And in football sometimes it was the quality. Like we'd have this unbelievable like whatever high def at the moment, whatever the best was, and then we get someone who's like shooting from a tree and we're like, what, this is not the same film exchange here. Like you
Yeah.
see numbers on ours, we can't even make out like how many linemen you have on the line. Like so
Yep.
like to see that stuff gets better, at least in
Yeah, and I mean, like you think about all the little stuff like that gives like coaches an extra headache is like, all right, we got to bring our camera guy. This is what it was before you had the huddle cameras and everything. You'd have to bring your camera guy. You'd have to get, your camera set up, and then you get home and you have the film. And then it takes you like an hour and a half to upload it to your computer. You know what I mean? And then you're waiting for that to process, and then you're going in to do your film
right.
and all that stuff. I mean, that was it's just an extra thing that you think. I mean, we're much more efficient now, which is really great just
Yeah.
for as far as just the use of your time, like now you go into another gym and there's just automatic film exchange, and that's kind of what it was with COVID. It was like we're not even allowed to bring a camera guy in, so the
Right.
team's
Like
gonna
it's like
film it
what the
and they're
hell?
gonna send you the film right after, and that kind of just carried over. So that's been that's been great. It's been
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
I mean, that is nice. I mean, yeah, in so many ways. I mean, now for you, and this is a question I like asking coaches a lot. I mean, is there a victory or a moment of like when we talk about just like scouting and watching film and taking notes and implementing? Is there a time you coach that you can think of that you like won a game or something went exactly the way you thought it was going to go plan that stands out to you? Like for me, I know as we played Swampskit, we had like a ton of film on them. And I had asked for a film at Danvers because I noticed at halftime the score was 6-0. I'm like, this is the first team to really kind of shut them down. They were scoring like 28 points a half. I mean, they scored a ton of points. I was like, what did this team do who's like 4-7 do that most teams couldn't? And it was like they played man to man and just blitzed the hell out of the quarterback. And he couldn't make like the one-on-one throws. Now this kid was throwing like 4 touchdowns a game, but he was picking like zones apart. All the other films were zone, zone, zone. And this was the one man film that we saw.
Yep.
And so we crept man and we were like roll the dice, like we're gonna send heat, force him to make the big throw down the field. He couldn't make it. And we ended up knocking him out of the game and we won. But like that moment for me as a coach was just like I went into that like rolling the dice, being like, this is what I think we could do off of half a film that was like
Yeah.
nobody else did it, and I thought we were better than that team who was doing it, so I thought we stood a chance.
Yep.
Is there a
Yeah.
moment for you like that?
Oh, all the time. I mean, all the time. I mean, I mean, it works on both sides because you can, you see what another team does defensively, and you can work on maybe those kind of shots that you feel like you're going to get in the game,
Yeah.
based on the way a team's playing you. And then, just the flip side of it, yeah, I mean, knowing what other teams are doing offensively and what they're trying to do. I mean, geez, I would have to say that almost every game that we play, if we've won, has been partially part of our scout. I mean, we had a game-winning deflection this year, in my opinion, just off our guy Roman, sent it knowing exactly the flex screen that was coming right down the stretch against Melrose, where he just beat that screen over the top, and you got a hand on it, deflected it out of bounds. It was a game-winning play. So yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just love those moments, and that's the moments of coaching that like people also don't understand is like most people judge of what they see on the product the day they go to the game, and there's just so much more to it. And sometimes when you do game plan for something, it just doesn't go the right way, or you just think something's gonna happen and it doesn't, and that goes into it. But the effort and the work and there is the other side of it of feeling like God, like I put a lot of time into this, and like we
Yeah.
got it
I
right.
mean,
We got it right.
I look at it as like the hard work is just the key to success I mean, I don't know really any other way. So you just do the best that you absolutely can, and you just try to cover all your bases. Um, and I think for us, like, you know, especially probably the way that we play, and the way my teams I feel like always play is just that the kids see how hard you prepare, and they understand what goes into it. Like you said, a lot of people really don't understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, if people understood it, I don't think any of us coaches would be part-time coaches if you really understood what goes in.
Right. I mean, you
Because we're,
can't
we're
be.
putting in, a lot of us are putting more work in than, a full-time job. It is a tremendous amount of work.
Hmm.
So I have like great respect for everybody that coaches because I just know how much work goes into it. And I know you're the same way. That's probably why you do this, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is a whole lot goes into it. And like I said, like when the kids know how hard you work, I mean, they know like you have the right to hold them accountable,
Yeah.
because if you're going to demand them to work hard, they better know that you're working hard. So I think that's part of it. I think the kids like they're going to play hard for the coaches that know that are working hard for them. So, it's a
Yeah.
two-way street. And, for me to demand that out of my kids, I feel like they got to know that, we're giving everything that we have.
Yeah. It's
And,
important, and you kids feel that energy. I mean, there was nothing worse than losing a game that like you lost because you knew what a team was doing. Like I coached on the defensive side of the ball, so I always talk more defense than anything. But
mm,
when you lose a game, you're like, yeah, they did everything we knew they were gonna do. They didn't maybe throw a wrinkle in here or there, but they just kind of beat you at it. And I think that sometimes as a coach, like it eats you a little bit, and to have that drive, and then on the other end of it, like being able to prep, like I said, prep for it and being able to have success with it it's a cool feeling, man. It really is.
yeah, I mean, you want to see your hard work pay off,
Yeah, yeah,
and like I said, it's such a grind, and like I said, like around here, I think it's just so different. Like my brother lives in Texas, and like their high school coaches over there, that like if you're a head high school football coach or a head high school basketball coach in Texas, like that's your only job.
you're on staff at the school. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's your full-time job. You
Yeah.
might hold a study hall at the end of the day, which is like your basketball or your football class.
Yeah.
But those guys, that's their full-time job, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. They kind of I think understand it in some other parts of the country, and they have different rules too, where they're allowed to, work with the kids year round and all that stuff. But yeah, you want to see your hard work pay off for sure. And that preparation, I think, is everything. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny, like transforming your team. Like, I think coaching wise, I'm sure you've seen this a ton too. Like, we had some success from like probably like 2007 to 2011 systematically, like going from being like a 4-3 to a 3-4, because we felt like we just had more athletes that were like stronger, that we could
Mm,
stand up on the end as opposed to having them down. And
yep.
I was sending, like, football season would be over and I'd be sending Dave Richard, who was our linebacker coach. I'd be like, dude, check out this. Like, we could do this. Like, we could shift to this against this team. Like, and that was like January, you know. So it's like there is so much more. And when I started this podcast, like, to be truthful, that was the whole premise of this, was like, what are coaches doing during COVID? How are they developing their education? What are they doing to get better in their programs? And that's kind of like what it was. And then we turned into the whole videography stuff and covering everything and being in depth in programs. Like, we went all in on it because I know as a coach how much work I put into what I did as a coach. I know how much work I put into this to cover what other people do.
Mhm.
It's a lot, and it's a lot of it is thankless, and a lot of it is what people don't see, and a lot of it is sometimes not just the on the court stuff. You obviously, you are the coach, you're dealing with classroom stuff, you're dealing with parent stuff, you're dealing with maybe discipline stuff, you're dealing with on the court preparation stuff. You're preparing and looking at your younger programs to see how they're developing. Like, so there's just so much that a head coach does. And but the work that you put into it, yeah, just like at home is crazy
Yeah.
amount
And
too.
I always say, I think like one of the big things is like, when you played high school football, right? And I played high school basketball, like you think about how short that window is, how
Right.
small that window is. And like I take that really serious with our guys. Like I know how small their window is. And, you know, um, it's like you're trying to maximize, all your experiences that you can for these kids. Just,
Yeah.
and I'm sure like what your coaches did for you growing up, and it's probably what brought you into coaching football, and
Yeah.
same for me. So that the high school window is so small, and there's really nothing like the high school atmosphere. I
Million
played
percent.
Division III college, just something about that high school is just different, So we take that really serious, about trying to get everything that we can out of these guys, and we know that when they look back at it, and that's probably like one of the best things about coaching, right? Is all like the relationships that you have with all your former players that just never
Right.
dies. Big family, like, I know a lot of the guys that, you played for, or even just that you met, in the
Oh,
coaching world.
absolutely.
Like, it's just there's nothing better than that, So um I think it's really important to try to just maximize everything you can with your time in this game. So
Yeah. And that's it. Even with this podcast, like, I mean, we had at times like Division III colleges reaching out, like wanting us to do a little videography stuff, wanted to like have some of their coaches on the podcast and
mm,
develop a relationship. And we did some of that stuff. And I kind of stepped back and was just like, God, this is a high school sports podcast. Like, I am not, if I wanted to do college, then I could maybe do it, but I don't want to. Like, the whole point of this is the hard work and the grind that, like, I understood and know what goes into it, and being able to tell those stories and show those stories. And I think that that's like, yeah, I mean, I talk about this and we've kind of stuck on this topic for a little bit, but it's important because, there is like the work. You're a dad too, you're a teacher too. Like, it's not like basketball, like you said, like in the world of Texas and other states, that's the full-time gig the whole time. Like, that'd be
mm,
ideal, right? But like, that's just not the reality. And so there's a lot of work going into. We mentioned the youth. Like, at some point, you're going to be dealing with that in the off season, and that's not like, it's not like you're continuously getting paid. Like, you know what I mean? That stuff is more now you knowing what you need to do to kind of wrap everything together, or start to wrap everything together tight. So there's a lot
yeah.
of effort. There's a lot of work goes into it, and that kind of transitions me into like the last thing that I like to ask a lot of guests on here, and that is, you've been at it now for a while. You've coached at a lot of different spots. What would be your advice to either like a young person come into coaching to kind of, maybe you wish you had a crystal ball to go back a little bit to tell your young self? What would you say to yourself now that you've been in it? You've seen what, different leagues, different programs, different teams are like. What would be your advice to young coaches out there?
I think I think when I was a young coach coming on, I was 25 years old when I first got my head coaching job at Medford, and I'm 42 years old now, and I had a lot of confidence as a coach, thinking, you're gonna, just beat everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you just, and there's a lot of really good coaches out there. So I think it's just I'm not sure I know how to say it, but as you get older, you really kind of realize, there's not just your way to do it. There's multiple ways, and I think just just kind of looking back and just think I just think when I was a younger coach, you just felt like it was you were the best coach you're going against, and that's
Yeah,
it.
no one knows more basketball than you do. No
Yeah.
one knows how to win situations, and then you have that situation that you maybe like use a last timeout when you shouldn't. I mean, God, my first year as a head coach, we're playing Shawsheen Tech. We stop them on defense. It's like fourth and long, and I call a timeout at the last second to ice their field goal kicker. Like last second, the kid goes through with the kick. He shanks a pot, misses it. 95 yards the other way. Okay. Like, Jesus Christ, they blow the whistle, timeout. The kid
Yep.
comes in and next play cranks it right down the middle between the goalposts. And I thought to myself, I was that same coach. Like, I coached the situation well. I know what I'm doing. And, like, maybe the kid hits it if I don't call that timeout. Maybe he doesn't. But the point is like, that was a huge learning moment for me. And I took that one on the chin. And like when I spoke to my team, I said, no, I let you guys down tonight. Like, I get it. We're going to move on, but it's a tough one. And I take responsibility. Like, I think you learn a lot about yourself as a coach. And like you said, when you're young, you think you can take on the world until you start getting put in those situations and you learn and you have those aha moments and it gets you to where you're at right now and the success that you've had and what you've done over your coaching career. How many wins you at?
Oh,
Or in the ballpark, in the
yeah,
ballpark.
184. 184.
Okay, man. So
Yeah.
okay, all right. I was
Yeah.
wondering. I was gonna guess. I was like trying to do the math. I was like, maybe like 150 to 200, somewhere in
Yeah.
between there. So I was
Yeah,
in the ballpark.
184 right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
That's
Uh,
great, man. So you're on the higher end of 200. I mean, have you thought about that at all? Did I just put it on the radar, right?
yeah.
Like,
No, I've thought about it. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, you have some individual goals, but that's they're really team goals, right? You're winning, and yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a goal of mine for sure. You want to keep track of your wins, trying to get as many wins as you can before you die.
yeah,
You know, that's pretty much it. You're trying to win as many championships as you can before you die. And you're trying to stack win. I'm trying to stack wins throughout the day. You just go in and you run a successful drill, that's a win. You have a good practice, that's a win. You get into your fourth grade travel team and you watch them play and they get a win, that's a win.
yeah,
We're just trying to, we kind of like to say, my coach Moss, one of my assistant coaches at Wilmington, he kind of came up with this phrase that we're addicted to winning, and I think that's true. And we're just kind of relentless in our pursuit to win.
yeah,
And our guys have really took that on. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So yeah,
yeah.
you want to win as many games as you
That's
possibly
it.
can.
I like that, dude. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Well, you're flirting with 200. I mean, obviously that's a milestone in itself. And that's great, man. So listen, I want to thank you for coming on here today. I know you got a busy schedule. You guys have had one hell of a run. As I said, I've been following it on social media. It's been fun to watch and to continued success. I know it's going to be there. Be interesting to see the way the playoffs fall over the next few weeks and where you guys fall in that. And we'll be paying attention here beyond for sure. So I appreciate your time.
yeah. No, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks very much. I mean, you've been a friend of mine for a while, teaching in the same district, and
Yeah.
you do great work. And I know you're obviously a hell of a teacher, and I know you're a hell of a basketball coach. Now you're doing a hell of a job with the podcast and
Yeah.
giving a platform for these high school coaches. And it's really a lot of fun to be on here. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, and like I said, we'll be following you guys. So we'll be posting anything we see. We'll post on our page and let everybody know what's going on, man. So we appreciate it.
Sounds
Um,
good, Ant.
yeah, so guys, so check out our schedule this week on Instagram. We're back at Malden Catholic at the end of the week, Friday, for our final of our docu series that we're doing with them against Catholic Memorial. So we're super excited about that. We got a couple guests coming on the podcast tomorrow as well. So busy, busy, busy. But thank you, Coach Faraday, for popping on here. And
Roll Cats.
yeah, roll cats, guys. I'm your host, Anthony Petrellis, guys. Till next time.